Hi, if you want to watch exclusive content with hot girls that you won't watch on YouTube, namely where Naruto roasts Kushina and Mikoto and many other hot girls without restrictions, then visit my Boosty channel at the link in the description.
It was dark all around, not a single soul, only one candle lit the room. Somewhere in the distance steps were heard, they were getting closer and closer. The man raised his head and saw a male silhouette. "I have a proposition for you, Uzumaki Naruto." The blonde tried to get a good look at the man, but he couldn't. Every time Uzumaki opened his eyes, he felt incredible pain in them. Naruto didn't know how long he stayed in that place, but the pain in his whole body didn't go away. Kurama didn't respond, so all he could do was stare at the ceiling and think about what happened and where he ended up. Having given up trying to get a good look at the stranger, the blonde stared at the floor. "Who are you? And where am I?" Uzumaki said monotonously. Well, I'll start with the fact that my name is Hikatsu Najikawa, and you are in Jiken no Kujiri," said Hikatsu. "Okay, I'll explain now. Jiken no Kujiri is a place separating the past, present, and future. It's a place where time stands still, a kind of event horizon, and I am its eternal guardian. And anticipating your next question, I'll answer directly. I moved you to this place after death," the man said. He expected him to be surprised or something similar, but not a muscle moved on Naruto's face. He raised his head, but didn't open his eyes. "Why? What do you want from me?" "Believe me, I don't need anything from you. I just want to give you a gift. I've watched you a lot, Naruto. You spared no effort in helping people. Even after your death, you threw yourself back into the battle for humanity. Even when the whole world hated you, you didn't turn to the evil side. You've been through a lot during this time, lost loved ones. And I want to give you a chance to fix everything, to start over with a clean slate. You can change the course of events, prevent the last 2 wars, and more. You can change the future. That is..." Naruto guessed what he was getting at. There was surprise and a bit of misunderstanding on his face. "I want to send you back in time, Uzumaki Naruto." Naruto was completely unprepared for this turn of events. He was quite shocked. The blonde almost fell to the floor at this statement, but then surprise gave way to seriousness, and he asked the question that was currently on his mind. "What's the catch? I think this is too generous a gift." "Oh, you're smart, but there's no catch here. Hagoromo would be proud of you," said Hikatsu. "Did you know old man Rakuto?" Uzumaki asked. "Yes, but that's not the point now. I'll heal your wounds, and then we'll move you into the past." "As you say, Hikatsu-san," Naruto said. "Just don't use the sand or any of that nonsense, just Hikatsu," the guardian said, performing a couple of hand seals. Naruto's aura was bright green, and his wounds began to gradually heal. "While I'm treating your wounds, you can ask me all the questions you're interested in." "Hikatsu, approximately what time period will I arrive?" "I don't know about that, my friend, but definitely no later than the battle at the Valley of the End, and no earlier than the graduation exams. Something like that. And yes, regarding strength, Kurama will need to re-enhance your chakra circulation system, but first you must free him again. He'll still have the memory of what happened. And you can check the rest yourself. This is the first time I've done something like this for anyone," Hikatsu replied. "I see. By the way, with the fox I can't hear him and can't go down into the subconscious," Naruto said. "I put him to sleep and blocked his subconscious. He needs to rest. He spent almost all his chakra. Just a little more, and he would have died." "But he would have been reborn, right?" Uzumaki asked. He remembered Rakuto telling him that after death they are reborn after a while. "Yes, you're right about that, but they'll only be reborn if they want to," the man said with a bitter smile. Naruto understood the meaning of his words and grinned. "Yeah, that fox fur coat probably wouldn't do it. He's too stubborn, even if I asked him." "Yes, possibly. So we've healed the wounds, now we can send you off," said Hikatsu, canceling the technique. "How do you feel?" Better, Naruto answered, opening his eyes. The old Rinnegan was burning in them. Much better. Then we can get started. Are you ready? Yes. Repeat the seals after me, Bikatsu said, and began to fold the seals. Naruto followed him, and when they folded the last seal, the blonde was enveloped in a white glow, and he began to disappear. Remember, Naruto, everything is in your hands, Bikatsu said, and Naruto disappeared. The blonde's vision darkened, his body froze, and he lost consciousness. Sensing danger, Naruto opened his eyes sharply and dodged a piece of chalk flying at him. Taking a quick glance around the room, Naruto realized he was now in the academy, and the object of danger was Iruka. Naruto, stop sleeping. The sensei was indignant. The blonde was now experiencing a storm of emotions inside, but he tried to hide them. Feeling someone looking at him, Uzumaki turned towards the observer. It was Hinata. Catching the young man's gaze, the kunoichi blushed and turned away. Uzumaki only smiled at this, deciding to confess to her earlier than last time. Then he turned his gaze to the Uchiha, who, as always, sat with a stone face. The blonde snorted and decided to kill him if he tried to escape, him and this snake. Where do such sadistic thoughts come from? Kurama spoke in his subconscious, which Naruto was not happy about. Has my schizophrenia really woken up? The young man said in surprise. You damn masochist, the fox snorted. What do you mean? The young man did not understand what the fox was talking about. Well, it wasn't me who died twice and then came back to life. Maybe you're a masochist and you get off on it. It's a shame I don't have as many tails as I do strength now. Kurama fumed. Stop! How did you know we're in the past? I'm not as stupid as you. I should have listened to the teacher. Tomorrow is the Genin exam, Naruto snorted. Classes at the academy ended, and after receiving instructions from Iruka about the exam, the future shinobi went home. Naruto himself ran straight to the training grounds. If only it works, if only it works, the boy repeated as if he were praying. You could at least put up a barrier. F-Yin, impenetrable barrier. It wasn't very good, of course, but at least it was something. He understood that everything had to be started from scratch. Well, almost everything. Not bad. The main thing is that you succeed. It will make our task much easier. I understand, Naruto said, performing a concentration seal. After a couple of minutes, he smiled and descended into his subconscious. Everything was there as before. Pipes, water, a cage, and a grumpy fox. Kurama stared at the blonde and bared his teeth. Well, Kurama, let's show them what we're made of, said the blonde, with the usual Rinnegan glowing in his eyes. Naruto trained until late into the night. Even though he still had his Rinnegan, he couldn't keep it activated for long. Kurama was still sealed, and his circulation system was weak. During training, Naruto was able to use almost half of his elemental techniques. He hadn't even counted on the Inton and Yoton techniques yet. True, the striking power of the techniques was a quarter of what it had been before, which Naruto was slightly disappointed with. But the fox reassured him that with his current level of strength, he could tear any Jonin to pieces, and this at 13, well, almost 14 years old. Uzumaki calmed down. He still needed to get his physical form in order and free Kurama, but for that he needed Giratora. Putting all this off until tomorrow, he went to bed. In the morning, he was awakened by the insistent voice of the fox, who was trying to wake his Jinchuriki. Reluctantly opening his eyes, Naruto descended into the subconscious with the goal of killing Kurama. Why? So? Shout! Uzumaki was indignant. To which the fox snorted and said, You have an exam today, and if you don't hurry, you'll be late. But I definitely forgot about him. Naruto hit himself on the head. Okay, I'll go continue playing the fool. That's not necessary. You can continue to act like an idiot. Although you are an idiot anyway, Kurama said calmly. But that's not the point. You don't have to hide part of your power. You could have simply learned some techniques yourself. After all, you dream of becoming Hokage, so you train hard and so on. I'll still remind you of the idiot, but the main thing is not to overdo it, and not to arouse suspicion about your abilities," Naruto said, pretending to be smart. "What a great mind of the land of fire. Get out of here," said the fox and threw the blonde out of the subconscious. "What a torn rug," the Jinchuriki said, and began to get ready. He didn't want to be late. Having gotten ready in 10 minutes, Naruto set off for the academy, jumping out the window and quickly galloping across the rooftops. Uzumaki arrived on time, which surprised Irika and the future Jinin. He ignored this and sat down at the last desk and waited his turn. "So, our exam will be held in 3 stages. The first is Hinge, the second is Clones, and the third is Ninjutsu. So let's go to the training grounds," the teacher said and headed for the exit. Once outside, Naruto jumped onto a tree branch and waited his turn. He couldn't care less about the exam right now, but he still glanced at the exam. It was Sasuke's turn. The blonde didn't even look, because he knew he would pass it anyway. "Uzumaki Naruto," the teacher said. Naruto jumped down from the branch and walked to the center of the training ground, overhearing students whispering along the way things like, "He won't pass," and the like. Uzumaki smiled to himself and braced himself. Reaching the center of the training ground, the Jinchuriki stopped. Hinge, Naruto easily transformed into the 3rd Hokage, which surprised Irika. "Well, good, now the clones?" The blue-eyed man crossed his fingers. Shadow cloning technique. He summoned 30 clones and sent Irika's jaw crashing to the ground. Naruto looked at him indifferently. "You see, it's all the Uchiha's influence. You need to spend less time with them, otherwise you'll start to pick up their mannerisms," the fox said admonishingly. Snorting at the fox's words and seeing a nod from the sensei, Uzumaki began making hand seals. Futon, vacuum projectile. The small ball he released left a neat hole in the tree. Silence. No one expected this from the incompetent and hooligan, so the blonde calmly walked over to the table, grabbed the bandage, and jumped back up the tree. The others didn't interest him, so he decided to take a nap. Naruto had just closed his eyes when he heard his sensei's voice. "Team distribution is tomorrow at 9 o'clock. Try not to be late." After listening to their sensei, the Jinin began to disperse, and Naruto followed suit, deciding to head to the training grounds. On the way, he stopped by a Chiraku, as he hadn't had time for breakfast. After eating 5 servings, he went off to train, satisfied and full. While he was walking, Kurama had already drawn up his training schedule, though the blonde wasn't pleased, but arguing with the fox was pointless. Upon arriving at the training grounds, Uzumaki immediately began running laps, not forgetting to put on the weights he'd acquired after Ichiraku. After his run, the Jinchuriki began doing push-ups while the fox chatted with him. "Let's do this 2 more approaches, about 20 times. Then we'll try to summon Jiratora. He's been giving orders here," Naruto said, making his final approach. "Okay, take a break, and then we'll summon this toad. Why do we need it? I remember a lot of seals. Let's try them first. And if that doesn't work, then we'll try summoning," Naruto said, lying under the tree and descending into his subconscious. "Well, shall we try?" Uzumaki asked, flexing his arms. "Well, go ahead, take a risk," Kurama said incredulously, glancing sideways at his Jinchuriki. "I can't guarantee the consequences," the blonde chuckled. The fox just wanted to say that he had changed his mind, but it was too late. Naruto began quickly making hand seals. Fuin, Uzumaki technique, seal removal. Strangely enough, he succeeded, the cage disappeared, and Kurama rejoiced and began running around the room. Naruto smiled weakly and lost consciousness. After all, he had much less strength than before. The fox carefully picked him up and laid him down on his tails. "And Naruto, you don't change," Kurama said and fell asleep. The first rays of sun illuminated Konoha. Life was beginning to bustle again, Merchants were opening their shops, and some were hurrying to work. Somewhere in the village, in one of the many houses, the future Hokage of the village hidden in the leaves slept. Today was an important day for the academy graduates. Team assignments, for everyone, but not for him. He knew everything in advance, knew what would happen in the next 2 weeks, unless, of course, he changed the course of events. Waking up, Naruto wanted to get up, but a wave of hellish pain swept through his body, causing the blonde to even cry out. Overcoming the pain, Naruto sat on the edge of the bed and descended into the subconscious. The fox was sleeping, sprawled out in the middle of the room. After futile attempts to wake Kurama, Uzumaki decided to resort to extreme measures. Fortunately, there was plenty of water in this room. Kurama. With each word the blonde made a seal, and now the last seal remained. Well, you asked for it. Sudden, wave! A small wave hit the fox, but it was enough to wake him up. Jumping up as if scalded, the fox began cursing his Jinchuriki with such force that Naruto's eyes nearly popped out of their sockets. Having finished his tirade and calmed down, Kurama lay down and rested his head on his paws, looking questioningly at the blonde. What? It's your own fault. I haven't been able to wake you up for half an hour. Well, that's no reason to pour water on me, the fox protested. Naruto just shrugged and remembered why he came here, asking Kurama, "What's wrong with me? I can't even move normally." "Oh, sorry. I completely forgot to treat you. After you passed out, I slightly increased your chakra circulation system," the nine-tailed replied. "Then it's clear. Heal me a little, because there's more than half an hour left before the distribution of the chud," said Uzumaki, and came out of the subconscious. Naruto waited for the fox to heal his body and went to take a shower. After breakfasting on his favorite instant ramen, Uzumaki headed to the academy. Arriving, he collapsed at the last desk and waited. Although what's the point of waiting if you already know which team you'll be on? Arika called out the team numbers and lineups, as well as their senseis. Everything was as before. He was on a team with Sakura and Sasuke. Naruto, knowing that Kakashi would be a few hours late, decided to chat with the fox. Kurama stopped sleeping. The blonde yelled at the whole subconscious. "Why? Yell. Like that," the nine-tailed one said, and at the last he shouted so loudly that the Jinchuriki was slammed into the wall. "You wanted something?" the fox said more calmly. "I just came to talk. Sensei won't be here for 2 hours," Naruto said with a sigh. "Then you should talk to your teammates," Kurama suggested. "Well, of course, there is no point in talking to the Uchiha. He only thinks about revenge, and Sakura only thinks about Sasuke. So I'd rather torture you," Naruto said, rubbing his hands. "Ha! You're not in that position anymore," Kurama said with a grin. "You said you increased my chakra reserves. What is it now?" Uzumaki asked the perplexed fox. "Well, now you have it about like when you were 16. It's flying." The fox understood his plan when he activated the Rinnegan. "So, Rug, who called me an idiot?" Naruto said, and began to stretch his arms. Kurama laughed nervously and was about to run, but Bonsho Tenin. An hour and a half later, Naruto and Kurama lay exhausted. The blonde had a black eye and his clothes were slightly torn. Kurama was slightly burnt. "Yes, it's fun," said the fox. "Yes, we'll have to repeat it sometime," said the blonde, getting up from the floor. "Well, I have to go." He emerged from his subconscious just in time to see Kakashi appear in the doorway. He cast a rather unfriendly glance at the team and suggested they go out onto the roof. "Well, tell us about yourself," said the ash-haired man. "Maybe you can set an example for us," Sakura suggested. "Okay, my name is Hitaki Kakashi. I'm a jonin from Konohagakure. I don't like a lot of things, and I like little of anything. My dreams won't be of interest to you, and you don't need to know my goals," the jonin said. "What a great conspirator," the blonde said quietly. "What did you say?" Kakashi asked, his eyes flashing unkindly. "I'm telling you, Sensei, It's an interesting biography, Uzumaki said. Hataki chuckled and looked at Sakura. Now it's your turn. My name is Haruno Sakura. I'm a Konoha genin, and my dream is to become a medic. I love. She looked at the Uchiha. Well, what do you hate or dislike? Naruto grinned at these words. My name is Uchiha Sasuke. There are many things I don't like, and few that I like. My dream, or rather, it's more of a goal. I must kill one person. Sasuke was as unperturbed as ever. Sakura looked at the Uchiha with fear, and Kakashi looked at him seriously, realizing who he was talking about. Okay, now you're a blonde, Naruto snorted. You yourself haven't gone far. My name is Uzumaki Naruto. I love ramen and many other things. My dream is to become Hokage, and my goal is self-improvement. So, I want to do a little test on you. Tomorrow at 5 in the morning to the 10th training ground, no lates, Kakashi said and disappeared. Naruto did the same, leaving his teammates perplexed. The blonde appeared in his apartment. Well, the fun days have begun. Naruto woke up early in the morning, but not because of the alarm clock or because Kurama woke him up. He woke up thinking about her, the one who captured his heart forever. Uzumaki understood that the time had not yet come. He would confess to her after the mission in the Land of Waves. For starters, the blonde decided to rip off his foolish mask. He of course understood that this would cause a storm of questions that he would have to answer. But all this faded into the background. Without her, Uzumaki's soul became sad. He felt lonely, despite the fact that he had friends, the fox. Having gotten up a little in a depressed mood, Naruto went to take a shower. After breakfast, he went to his room. Naruto took a small scroll from under the bed in which his new clothes were kept. Having unsealed the clothes, he began to change. Now he was dressed in a black jacket with a whirlpool symbol on the back, black pants, and matching sandals. Naruto also wore bracers with metal inserts and an orange cloak with black flashes of fire depicted at the bottom. Fully equipped, Uzumaki headed out to the training grounds. Naruto arrived at the training ground at 7 o'clock, as he expected. Kakashi was gone, but Sasuke was disgruntled and Sakura was angry. Noticing the blonde, she started shouting something like, "Where have you been? Have you decided to change your image?" Sasuke asked, looking at Naruto. "A little? While Kakashi is gone, I want you to listen to me about this test," Naruto said. Seeing something resembling agreement, he continued, "It will most likely be a test of teamwork, and I have a small plan." 2 hours later, Sensei finally showed up. "Are you late, Kakashi-sensei?" Sakura was indignant. "It's just that." The ash-haired man began to justify himself. Yes, this should be a very interesting story, but maybe we should begin?" suggested the blonde. "Good. So, you have to take these bells from me before noon. Is everything clear?" asked Kakashi, showing the bells. "But there are only 2 of them." "That's right. Whoever doesn't get it will go back to the academy. Time has started." Sakura and Sasuke disappeared into the thicket, but Naruto remained standing. "And why are you still here, rule number?" Naruto interrupted him. Yes, I understand the rules are very important, but I want to test what I'm capable of," said the Jinchuriki. Well, come on," Kakashi said, taking out a book. "If I were you, I would be more careful," Naruto said, making seals, which Kakashi saw and almost dropped the book. "Ha, it looks like the fool's mask is broken," the fox said in his subconscious. Katon. The Great Fire Dragon. Yes, neither Kakashi nor the rest of Team 7 expected this. Having somehow dodged it, the Jonin realized it was better to focus on the battle. By the time the shinobi landed, the blonde was already out of sight. "Yeah, that kid's definitely..." Naruto appeared behind Kakashi, raising a kunai charge with wind chakra for a strike. The one-eyed man had to dodge. The shinobi jumped to the side, but Sasuke was already waiting for him. But he didn't use the technique. "Kakashi-sensei, you're trapped," Naruto said, the Jonin surrounded on 4 sides. Sasuke on one side, Naruto on the other, and 2 of his clones on the remaining sides. And what will you do? The teacher said, but there was no need to wait for an answer. Everyone had already started making seals. Katon, big fireball. Sasuke named the technique. Futon, vacuum wave. Raiden, discharge. Doton, dirt stream. Naruto and his clones called out their techniques. Kakashi was confused. He hadn't expected this from the newly minted genin. He had only one option left, to jump upward, so he did. But a surprise awaited him at the top, a huge cloud of shurikens sent by Sakura. Substituting, he appeared in front of Naruto and was about to attack, but at that moment, the blonde raised his hand towards Kakashi, his eyes beginning to change. Shinra Tensei, the Jinchuriki said quietly, and the ash-haired man was thrown back and slammed into a nearby boulder. At that moment, Uchiha quickly snatched the bells and tossed them to Naruto, who in turn released his sensei and deactivated his Rinnegan. Meanwhile, Sakura came out to them, and Uzumaki quickly tossed the bells to them. His teammates stared at him in bewilderment, as did his sensei. What? I can go to the academy for another year, said the blonde. But that was your plan, we just helped you, Sakura said. No one will go to the academy, you all passed. This test was about teamwork, said the Jonin. Everyone looked at each other, and a smile crept onto their faces. Sasuke was no exception. But with you, Naruto, I would like to talk separately. Okay, but let's do it at 6 in the evening in the Hokage's office. He'll be interested too. Good. Tomorrow at 8 we have our first mission, no lateness, said the shinobi and disappeared. Who would talk? The fox said in his subconscious. Maybe we should celebrate at Ichiraku? Naruto suggested, to which everyone readily agreed. Walking through the streets of Konoha, Team 7 chatted cheerfully. Even the emotionless Sasuke found himself in a good mood. And then, in one of the alleys, Naruto saw Hinata. To hell with it all. I'll catch up with you, the blonde said and disappeared around the corner. Finding the girl again with his eyes, he approached her, which surprised her a little. After all, she hadn't expected him to approach her and blushed. Hinata, I need to talk to you. Commentary on Chapter 4. Leave your feedback. Chapter 5 Hinata, I need to talk to you, Naruto said seriously. The poor girl didn't know what to say and tried with all her might not to faint. Oh, okay, the brunette stuttered. Hinata, well, damn, it was easier the first time. Uzumaki whispered the last words. Hinata, I love you. Hyuga fainted, just like last time, and the blonde managed to catch her before she could get to know the ground any better. Taking her in his arms, Naruto moved to the training ground, laying Hinata under a tree and sending a clone to his friends. Sitting down next to her, Naruto began to admire her. He liked every feature of her. He began to remember what she was like, or rather, to be more precise, and inadvertently remembered how he lost her. These thoughts made him clench his fists tightly, and the Rinnegan with 3 Tomo on the first circle lit up in his eyes. And at that moment, Hinata came to. She was a little scared of the blonde. Noticing this, Naruto deactivated the Rinnegan. Sorry, I scared you. And no, it was just unexpected. What's wrong with your eyes? I'll tell you later. Then, smiling slyly, Uzumaki continued, Do you remember what I said? Or should I repeat it? As so it wasn't a dream? The brunette said, more affirmatively than questioningly. No, Hina, this is not a dream, Naruto said, smiling. I love you too, Naruto. Hinata hugged Naruto and buried her face in his chest. The blonde pulled her away slightly and moved closer to kiss her tenderly. Of course, there's no point in asking, but I'll ask, Naruto said, moving away from the girl a little. Will you be my girlfriend? At that moment, the girl became slightly sad and moved away from Naruto. "My father won't allow it. He's too strict with me," Hinata said, looking at the ground. Naruto, without thinking twice, pulled her towards him and kissed her again. Unable to hold himself back for a moment, the blonde fell onto his back, pulling Hyuga down with him. The couple laughed merrily. They lay there for a couple more minutes, looking at each other. Then Uzumaki spoke. "Don't worry about your father. I'll talk to him." "Are you sure he'll listen to you? Will he even want to talk to you?" Hinata asked. "Believe me, he will listen," the blonde said seriously, looking the girl in the eyes. "I believe you, but why are you so sure? You don't even really know him," Hinata said, also looking into Naruto's eyes. "You know, sometimes I can be very convincing, even too much." Uzumaki smiled and kissed the young Hyuga. They sat like that almost until the evening and, deciding not to put off the conversation with Hinata's father, they headed to the estate. The girl denied it all the way, saying that nothing would work out, but it was already too late, since they approached the estate. When they went inside, Hayashi was waiting for them. Seeing her father, Hinata tightly grabbed the blonde's arm and pressed herself closer to him. Seeing them, the head of the clan frowned and wanted to say something, but the blonde did not let her do so. "Hayashi-sama, I'll tell you straight. Hinata and I love each other, but you won't let us date just like that. Am I right?" asked Naruto. "Yes, you're right," Hugo answered. "I have a proposal for you," Naruto said, and began to wait for his reaction. "And what is it?" Hayashi asked, beginning to like the blonde's persistence. "Sparring. If I win, then you allow us to meet," Naruto said, shocking everyone who was nearby, but not a single muscle twitched on Uzumaki's face. "And you're sure you can win? Aren't you a bit overconfident, Naruto?" He was definitely starting to be amused by this turn of events. "I'm sure," Naruto said. "Okay, let's go to the training ground," Hayashi said, and headed towards the training ground, which was in their possession. Naruto and Hinata followed him. Uzumaki and Hyuga stood opposite each other, while Hinata and a bewildered Neji stood a little further away. Naruto took a stance, extending his right leg back and slightly forward with his left leg bent at the knee. He spread his arms in opposite directions, left to the right and right to the left. The blonde wanted to quickly end this duel, since he needed to get to the Hokage in time. Hayashi took the usual stance of their clan. The referee, who was a member of the Hyuga clan, waved, indicating that the duel had begun. Naruto suddenly jumped forward, spreading his arms out to the sides. Chains flew out from under the ground, which in the blink of an eye bound the bewildered Hayashi, but the blonde did not stop there. Appearing next to him, Naruto placed his hand on the chains. Fuin, concealing powers. The chains that were on Hyuga disappeared, and he fell to his knees. At that moment, Hinata and Neji ran up to them. "Don't worry, Hayashi-sama, you'll be able to use chakra again in 5 minutes," Naruto said calmly. The leader was in complete shock, just like everyone else. Some genin had managed to beat the leader of the strongest clan. "Oh, if only you knew who that genin was." "So do you agree?" Naruto asked. "Yes, I agree, with great pleasure," Hayashi said, smiling. Now Uzumaki himself was surprised, but he didn't show it. "Thank you," said the blonde and helped Hayashi to get up. "And now, if you'll excuse me, the Hokage is waiting for me." Having kissed Hinata, the blonde disappeared. Naruto appeared in the third's office. He was animatedly discussing something with Kakashi, and they did not notice the appearance of the blonde. "Hello, Hokage-sama," Kakashi-sensei. The named ones turned sharply towards the voice. They were surprised that they could not notice his presence, especially the ash-haired one. "So you want to know about my strength?" Naruto asked, looking at the two shinobi, his eyes glowing with the Rinnegan and 3 Tomo. Commentary on Chapter 5. Leave your feedback. Chapter 6. equals 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 equals. So you want to know about my strength? Naruto asked, looking at the two shinobi, his Rinnegan and 3 tomo glowing in his eyes. Sarutobi's pipe dropped from his mouth at what he saw, and Kakashi simply glared at Naruto. Uzumaki walked easily to the couch and sat down, waiting for the two to come to their senses. They didn't have to wait long. The Hokage, having more or less recovered, began talking. Naruto, Kakashi told me about the techniques you used during the test and about the eye metamorphosis. Now I understand how you used them. You awakened the Rinnegan, the third said. Yes, you're right, said the blonde. But how did you do it? The copy ninja asked. Naruto sighed heavily, but decided to tell the story he concocted with the fox. Okay, I'll start from the beginning. So where should I begin? Well, I'll start with the fact that I lied to you for 13 years and played dumb so that no one would find out about my power. It could have caused a lot of problems. You ask, what kind of power is this? Let's start with the fact that when I was 6, I awakened the Rinnegan. At first, I didn't know what it was, but the nine-tailed fox explained it to me. I awakened it when I was being beaten, and this happened after the fox's chakra mixed with mine. Gradually, I began to understand the abilities of my eyes, observing shinobi training and copying their techniques. After 3 years, I mastered the 4 elements: fire, wind, earth, and lightning. I also learned to create some techniques, but they weren't very powerful, since at that time I hadn't yet tamed the nine-tailed fox. Kakashi's shocked voice interrupted the story. So you've already tamed him now? Don't interrupt. About a year ago. So where was I? Oh, right. I started looking for information about the Uzumaki clan. They were masters of seals, and that piqued my interest. I found a couple of seal techniques, and then based them on a few of my own. With my eyes, it wasn't difficult, but the problem remained. I lack chakra. So I made a kind of contract with the fox, whereby he gives me chakra instead of using his eyes on him. Just recently, I finally got the hang of water. And today, my eyes underwent a slight metamorphosis. You should have noticed it, Naruto said. You must be talking about the 3 tomo. Sarutobi guessed, and Uzumaki nodded. To his credit, not a muscle moved on his face throughout the entire story, which couldn't be said for Kakashi, whose eyes grew wider and wider with every word. The Hokage glanced out the window. The sun was slowly setting below the horizon. It would begin to get dark in about an hour. He turned his gaze to Naruto. I want to see your strength for myself. Now we'll head to the training grounds and you'll fight Kakashi one-on-one. The Jonin and Jinchuriki looked at the Hokage in surprise, but didn't argue. Arriving at the 7th training ground, they glanced questioningly at the Hokage again, but he merely nodded for the duel to begin. Sighing heavily, Kakashi turned to Naruto, who was already prepared. Ninjutsu or taijutsu? The blonde asked. Your choice, the ash-haired man replied. Without thinking twice, Naruto began performing hand seals, so fast that his sensei simply couldn't keep up without his Sharingan. Futon, air cutter. Air blades flew at the one-eyed man, but he easily stopped them using a large fireball. Okay, how do you like this? Uzumaki created 4 clones, who began to perform seals, and at that moment Kakashi opened his Sharingan. Doton, tectonic shift. Katon, dragon breath. Sudden, geyser. Raiden, lightning discharge. Futon, raisin shuriken. The clones and Naruto himself pronounced the names of the techniques. Such a bouquet of elements flew at the Sharingan that he simply had no time to do anything except try to dodge the attacks. He succeeded. Well, the almost fire technique still slightly caught him. Should we continue, or is that enough? Naruto asked. Otherwise, Sensei won't last much longer. Uzumaki looked at the out-of-breath Kakashi, who nodded affirmatively. No, that's enough. Naruto, you're free, but I need to talk to Kakashi about something, the Hokage said thoughtfully. After saying goodbye, Uzumaki disappeared, And the third, turning to the Jonin, said thoughtfully, I'm thinking of sending him to the ANBU. What do you think, Kakashi? Asked the third. I think we should first check how he will behave in a real battle, Kakashi said. Yes, you're right, but it's too early to give you difficult missions. Your team has just formed. I think he'll be a good replacement for me, Sarutobi said, and headed towards the residence. All week, Naruto and his team spent catching cats, weeding garden beds, and delivering letters. Their patience finally snapped, and they finally begged the Hokage for a C-rank mission. You will be escorting the architect to the Land of Waves so he can complete the bridge. The mission is simple, and there shouldn't be any problems, the Hokage said. At that moment, the architect entered the office, casting a disdainful glance at the Genin team before turning to the Hokage. And these brats will guard me. Aren't they a bit weak? Hello, Tazuna-san. I assure you, they are powerful shinobi, said the third, smoking his pipe. Naruto turned to Tazuna and said in a serious voice, This is just an escort mission. You won't be attacked by bandits or missing Nin, right? That would be an A-rank mission, the bridge builder said, shuddering involuntarily. I think it's time we got going, Kakashi said, and they headed for Konoha's main gates. They moved in silence, only occasionally pestering Tazuna with questions. Jumping from branch to branch, Uzumaki noticed a small puddle beneath them. He immediately understood what it was, as this was his second mission. The blonde looked at Kakashi, who nodded and fell behind a bit, just as two men emerged from the puddle. Naruto quickly got his bearings, dove down, and positioned himself opposite the attackers. One of them immediately attacked him with a chain, but the weapon never reached its target. Divine punishment! The shinobi was thrown back a good 10 meters. Without wasting any time, Uzumaki moved toward them and knocked out the attackers with precise blows. The architect, along with Sasuke and Sakura, stood there, dumbfounded. Kakashi approached Naruto and glanced at the attackers. His fears were confirmed. They were mercenaries. Tazuna-san, why didn't you tell us you were being hunted by shinobi? Our mission was simply to protect us from random bandit attacks, the ash-haired man said, looking at the architect. Right now, that mission is at least rank B, but it was supposed to be just protection until you finish construction. If we'd known you were being hunted by ninja, that mission would have been moved to a different category. I'm sure you had your reasons for not telling us everything, but that attitude is causing us problems. We're no longer obligated to protect you now. You're right, you don't have to protect me anymore. It's just that a very dangerous man is hunting me. You most likely know him. His name is Gato. He's set his sights on our country, and, using every possible means, has quickly seized control of our fleet. The only thing he fears is the completion of the bridge, the bridge builder said. And since you're the one building the bridge, Gato decided to get rid of you, Naruto concluded. But why did you hide this when you hired us? Kakashi asked. It's very simple, Kakashi-sensei. The Land of Waves is very poor, and they wouldn't have enough money to pay for a higher rank, am I right? Naruto suggested. Yes, you're right. I understand that you're no longer obligated to protect me. No, we'll continue the mission. Your country needs our help. We'll protect you until the construction is finished. Right, Sensei? Naruto glared at Kakashi with his Rinnegan. He had no choice but to agree. Sighing heavily, the one-eyed man turned to Tazuna. Okay, we'll continue the mission, he said, and they continued on their way. They soon reached the Land of Waves. They walked through the forest to the architect's house, and everything was quiet and peaceful, except for the enormous cleaver that was flying straight at them. Get down, Kakashi shouted, but it wasn't necessary, as Naruto sent him back with a wave of his hand. Could someone really have blocked my decapitator? Said the shinobi, half of whose face was covered by a mask. Zabuza Momochi, also known as the Demon of the Hidden Mist, was one of the 7 swordsmen of the Mist, a master of silent killing, the ash-haired man said. I see you've heard of me, Hatake Kakashi, or the Copy Ninja. The man who copied over 1,000 techniques. Copy Ninja Kakashi, Zabuza said. It was very nice to meet you, but I have to kill this old man. Dream on, Naruto said. Kakashi-sensei? Be careful. The Taki understood what the blonde wanted. Uzumaki stood in front of the swordsman and, activating his Rinnegan with 3 Tomo, prepared for battle. Momochi laughed when he saw the blonde. You want me to fight this brat? You're too inattentive, Zabuza, the Jinchuriki said, moving almost right up to the missing Nin. Before Momochi could react, he received a Rasengan to the solar plexus, but it was just a water clone. You're not such a simpleton, the shinobi said, standing on the river. Nimpo, concealing mist. The fog began to thicken, and the mist demon disappeared from sight, and soon the 17 was covered in fog. So you're a master of silent killing, huh? Naruto said, closing his eyes. Well then, we'll play hide and seek. Senpo, sure no Kage. Commentary on Chapter 6. Leave your feedback. Chapter 7. Having named the technique, Naruto vanished, just like the swordsman. Sakura, Sasuke, and Kakashi surrounded the architect, but even the Sharingan was of no help to the Jonin. The silence that pervaded the surroundings greatly increased the tension. Suddenly, there was a hiss of air being cut. Turning at the sound, Kakashi noticed Momochi's cleaver, which was half a meter away. He had no time to react, but at that moment something struck the cleaver, sending it flying off. You're not a bad kid. Zabuza's voice came out of nowhere. This startled the bridge builder and the Genin, while Kakashi frowned. He didn't know if Uzumaki could handle it, but he had to trust him. Silence fell again, but not for long. You're too careless, Zabuza. Did you think I'd notice your accomplice in the forest? Naruto's voice echoed from all sides, sending shivers down Zabuza's and everyone else's spines. Combined with the impenetrable fog and silence that surrounded them, it sounded downright terrifying. What have you done to Haku, brat? The demon of the hidden mist roared, but didn't reveal his location. Nothing yet, but that's for now, Naruto said, and then added, I'm tired of this, stop hiding. Futon, rising winds. A sharp gust of wind cleared the fog, revealing the swordsman's location. He was sitting not far from the shinobi, on a tree branch, trying to spot the blonde. He finally succeeded. Uzumaki was standing under the tree, almost directly opposite him. Then Momochi noticed that the blonde wasn't alone. He was right. Haku was lying next to him under the tree. The demon seethed with anger, leaping from the tree, picking up his decapitator, and glaring furiously at the blonde. What have you done to Haku? Momochi's anger knew no bounds. He was ready to kill anyone for this boy. I told you, there's nothing yet. You will pay for this. Zabuza shouted, thrusting his sword into the ground and starting to perform hand seals. Sudden, water dragon. A huge dragon, made of water, flew out of the nearby river and rushed towards Uzumaki. You're repeating yourself. Kato, great fireball. The two technicians met and destroyed each other, but they didn't stop there. Leaping onto the surface of the water, the swordsman began performing hand seals with lightning speed. Sudden, tsunami. A huge amount of water rose into the air, rushing toward the shinobi like a wave. The first target, Naruto, was only a few meters away. He quickly formed the seals of a technique that nearly made Kakashi's jaw drop, thanks to his mask. Katon, Jioke Mekyaku. An unimaginably huge wall of fire collided with the wave, simply sweeping it out of its path, and now bearing down on the swordsman. Naruto knew Zabuza was no longer there, and wouldn't be affected, but that was exactly what he needed. He couldn't continue using such techniques anymore. Even though his chakra reserves had increased, he wasn't what he once was, so he only had enough chakra for a couple of techniques. You remember the plan, you shouldn't kill them, the fox said mentally. Yes, I know, I did develop this plan after all. Now I need to find him. I only have enough chakra for these 2 techniques, and I won't be able to maintain my Rinnegan anytime soon. Naruto mentally conversed with Kurama and continued searching for Zabuza, but he didn't have to search for long. The swordsman was standing right in front of him. The contact of their techniques filled the area with thick steam. Wasting no time, the swordsman attacked the Jinchuriki, the blonde barely dodging the decapitator's crushing blows, as he no longer had his katana and couldn't summon the staff with the Gudadama. This dance continued, occasionally veering into taijutsu and ninjutsu, but only on Momochi's part, and it lasted for about 10 minutes. When Uzumaki finally had enough, he instantly teleported to Zabuza and, activating the second stage of his Rinnegan, looked him in the eyes. Senpo, Jiken no Sakami. Zabuza and Naruto found themselves in an incomprehensible place. Everything around them was painted in white tones, the space completely empty. The swordsman, thinking it was an illusion, tried to escape it, but to no avail. You don't have to try. It's not an illusion. It's something like another dimension. Time flows differently here. 1 day here is equal to 1 second in the real world, Naruto said, causing Momochi to be completely confused. And why did you move us here? Zabuza asked. It's very simple. I need to talk to you, the blonde replied. And about what? You understand, of course, that by killing the old man, you'll ruin the entire country. Why would you do that? Oh yes, of course, it's money. So I'll pay you double if you leave him alone and do my bidding. So what? The Jinchuriki said, making the demon pause. The offer puzzled him slightly. On the one hand, it was profitable. He'd get more money, but on the other, could he trust this boy? Zabuza stood there for a few minutes, considering Naruto's offer, then decided to accept. If I agree, what guarantee do I have that you'll pay me and won't turn yourself into Konoha's A and B you? And secondly, where would a regular genin get that kind of money? Momochi asked. There's no guarantee, but what guarantees did Gato give you? Will he pay you? That's right, no guarantees. You can only take my word for it. As for the money, I'm the son of the 4th Hokage, and believe me, he left me quite a fortune, Uzumaki replied, causing the swordsman to pause in his thoughts once again. What should I do? The demon of the hidden mist asked. Naruto was surprised and smiled. He hadn't expected him to agree so quickly. The essence of the mission is to obtain information about the location of one person. Uzumaki was interrupted by the swordsman. Is that all? Isn't it too simple? Zabuza was surprised by such an easy task. Ah, if only it were that simple. This man is a member of a well-known organization called Akatsuki. That's the problem. I could do it myself, but the problem is in the village. I can't leave it yet, Uzumaki said with a sigh, sitting down in the lotus position. What are his distinguishing marks? Zabuza asked, imitating the blonde and sitting down, placing the cleaver on his lap. Like all members of this organization, he wears a black cloak with red clouds, and his face is covered by an orange spiral mask with a hole for his right eye. His name or nickname is Toby. The rest is unknown to me. Naruto finished describing his supposed target. Momochi looked at him skeptically, and Uzumaki sighed heavily, but he couldn't tell everyone he knew about Obito. Yes, I understand the information is scant, but this is all I know, and the amount I'll give you isn't small either. So think about it. You have some time while we're here, Naruto said, standing up. Information is scant. I've heard about this organization, and their fighting prowess. Following them would be tantamount to suicide. But I'll accept your offer, Uzumaki Naruto. How much time do I have to gather information? Naruto rejoiced when Momochi agreed. You have 2 months. That should be enough time, said the blonde man. Okay. I just have 2 questions for you. What's wrong with Haku, and how can we disappear quietly? The swordsman asked. Haku's fine. I just knocked him out. As for disappearing, I have a technique that will really help us. I'll use it as soon as we get out of here. But what should we do with Gato? He can probably hire someone else. Naruto answered Momochi's question. Or maybe he'll show up himself with his gang, Zabuza suggested. Perhaps. We should go back, the Jinchuriki said, performing a concentration seal. The space vanished, and they appeared in the place where they had been fighting. Quickly reorienting himself, Naruto used Thunder God's flight. Fortunately, Kurama had managed to accumulate some chakra while they were in the other dimension. He appeared almost the same second he disappeared. Without a word, he thrust Haku into Zabuza's hands and began performing a series of hand seals. When the last seal remained, the blonde finally spoke. You will appear at the border of fire, and then you can handle it yourself. And by the way, you might feel a little sick. Rokodaina Dankai, Naruto used the technique, and the two disappeared, and he himself began to perform seals with lightning speed again. Well, I need to quickly cover my tracks before Kakashi finds me. The main thing is that I have enough chakra. Make it more identical, not like when you tried to turn yourself in for the devil, Kurama boomed. Yes, I know, don't remind me about it. Senpo, Amarekawari. Commentary on Chapter 7. Please leave your feedback. Chapter 8. Senpo, Amarekawari. The outlines of two people began to form on the ground in front of Naruto. They were soon recognizable as exact copies of Haku and Zabuza. Once the fake bodies of the two missing nin had formed, the blonde decided to dispel the mist that had formed from the contact of their techniques. After glancing at the bodies again, to make sure he had done everything correctly, Naruto began performing hand seals. Futon, Jusho Kirai. Gusts of wind quickly dispersed the fog around them, and Naruto was able to see the location of the team with the bridge builder, though he already knew their approximate position. When they regained their view, they saw a scene that baffled everyone. How could a mere genin defeat one of the 7 swordsmen, even a former one? Kakashi stood and watched calmly, beginning to understand just how strong Naruto was. But the Jonin also understood that that wasn't all he had. Sakura's shocked gaze shifted from Uzumaki to the missing nin. Even Uchiha lost his composure and was openly dumbfounded by what was happening. Naruto, of course, told them he was only playing dumb and not showing his full strength, but to that extent. Why you killed them? The pink-haired girl managed to say, her face turning pale. I had no choice. They didn't want to give up, Naruto said, his expression becoming even more dejected and looking at his sensei with his own eyes. Kakashi nodded and said, You did the right thing, Naruto. You were on a mission to protect Tazuna-san and your friends. But it's still inhumane to just go and kill someone, Sakura persisted. I have the same opinion as you, Sakura, but if I hadn't done this, they would have killed me, and then you. Maybe you're right. What should we do with him? Sasuke said, once again putting on his mask of composure. I suggest we seal them for now, the Jinchuriki suggested. I agree, Kakashi said, approaching the missing nin's bodies. After sealing them, they moved on. They reached the architect's house without incident. After a short rest after the journey, towards evening, Kakashi decided to train the genin. Coming to the edge of the forest, he began explaining the nature of the training. The training involves chakra control. You have to climb a tree without using your hand, the sensei said, calmly walking toward the tree and then starting to climb vertically up the trunk. You have to channel a certain amount of chakra into your feet to attach to the tree bark, but if you channel too little, you'll fall. If you channel too much, the bark will crack and you won't be able to hold on. The result is the same. So you have to find your balance. Take kunai and mark your progress. Kakashi-sensei, can you help me with something? Naruto said, standing upside down on a tree branch. No one was even surprised. And in what way? I have problems with the water element, Uzumaki shrugged. Okay, you two train, and we'll go to the river, the copy ninja said, heading toward the river with Uzumaki. Reaching a small stream, they stepped onto its surface and began talking. "What exactly is it about water techniques that you can't master?" Kakashi asked. "It's easy for me, but not all the techniques work out more or less normally." "Well, except for one. For some reason it works out perfectly," Uzumaki said. "And what is this technique?" Sensei asked, indicating he was waiting for a demonstration. Naruto nodded and jumped away from Sensei, performing hand seals as he did so. Sudden, Akuma Shurikai. The water in the river turned dark, almost black. Something resembling a dragon and a snake emerged from beneath the water, the same color as the water, its eyes glowing yellow. It circled the blonde so that his body was encircled, its head above Naruto, looking at Kakashi, steam rising from its mouth. It looked a little frightening. Just then, Sasuke and Sakura emerged from the river, mesmerized by the spectacle, simultaneously beautiful and terrifying. Uzumaki pointed his hand toward the forest. At the blonde's command, the dragon rushed forward and, just before reaching the forest, rose upward, made a semicircle, and then rushed back into the river. A few seconds after the snake-like dragon entered the water with a great splash, the water returned to its original form. After showing Naruto a couple of Suiton techniques, which he easily repeated, they went back to the bridge builder's house. Tomorrow might be a tough day ahead of them. Chapter Note: Senpo, Amarekawari, Sage Art, Cheating Death. An S-rank technique that creates inanimate bodies that completely replicate the originals down to the smallest detail, including their chakra. Can be used through direct contact with the intended sample. Futon, Jusho Kirai from Japanese, Wind Element, Rising Currents. A B-rank technique that creates small gusts of wind capable of repelling projectile weapons, primarily used for defense. Suiton, Akuma Shurikai Water Element, Dead Sea Demon. An A-rank technique. This technique relies primarily on Yang Chakra, which is what causes the water to have a dark hue. This technique summons a serpentine dragon, which is controlled by the summoner. Commentary on Chapter 8. Leave your feedback. Chapter 9. Tazuna woke early the next morning with Kakashi, Sasuke, and Sakura. Naruto remained at the architect's house, finishing up some work. Bridge construction was well underway, the structure growing exponentially. Kakashi and his students were on the bridge, monitoring the surrounding area. Everything was calm, almost too calm. Kakashi knew Gato wouldn't stop there, and needed to be on guard. It was approaching midday, and Naruto still hadn't arrived. No one had attacked them the entire time, and the ash-haired boy hadn't even noticed anyone. A couple of hours later, when the bridge was almost finished, Hatake sensed someone approaching from the forest, clearly with ill intentions. They soon appeared at the edge of the bridge. There were about 20 attackers, but only 9 of them were shinobi. The rest were simply bandits. And Gato walked ahead of them. 2 students approached Kakashi and prepared for battle, but the enemy had the advantage in both strength and numbers. Sakura looked at the new arrivals with a slightly frightened expression and turned to her teacher. "Sensei, there are too many of them. We can't handle them alone," the pink-haired girl said. "And where the hell is Naruto?" "I completely agree with her. You may be the strongest Jonin in Konoha, but they have a numerical advantage, and especially since they have shinobi," Sasuke said, looking around the crowd. "Naruto left you a scroll. I think we should use it and summon him," the Uchiha suggested. "Yes, you're right, Sasuke," the Jonin said, pulling out a scroll. Opening it, he was about to use the reverse summoning, but at that very moment, a clap of thunder echoed throughout the area and a bright yellow flash appeared behind the Konoha's soldiers. Everyone turned their gaze to see Naruto himself. With a calm gait, Uzumaki stepped ahead of his comrades and, surveying the enemy lines, sighed wearily. "And Zabuza was right. That idiot showed up right here with his gang," Kurama said in the blonde's subconscious, grinning. "Yes. I'll try to negotiate with them, but if they don't agree, then we'll give them a warm welcome, Uzumaki said to the fox in his mind. Who's that brat? Someone from the crowd asked, and everyone laughed. The Jinchuriki clicked his tongue in disgust. Let's do it this way. You leave as amicably as you came, and we won't bother you, especially me. Deal? Naruto suggested, which caused even more laughter from the bandits. Get out of the way, and we might not touch you, Dado said, tapping his cane on the bridge. Naruto can't negotiate with them, you know that yourself, Kakashi said, preparing for battle. The blonde sighed heavily, shook his head, then exhaled loudly and shouted, I don't have that much time to waste on scum like you. I have a date with a girl tomorrow, and because of you, I might be late, which is highly unacceptable. Summoning technique. A very loud pop was heard on the river, next to the bridge. From the smoke that the technique caused, Kurama appeared. He roared loudly, making everyone nearly shit their pants, the Konoha guys no exception. Everyone's knees began to shake, some of the gang even falling on their butts. They realized who this kid was, and who he had summoned. Kurama's tails flared up, and with a satisfied and proud gait, he headed closer to the bridge. After all, they had made a lasting impression. Without thinking twice, Naruto jumped on the nine-tailed beast's head and, crossing his arms over his chest, said, You have two options. The first is to leave the bridge, as well as to Tsuda-san and his family, alone and escape unharmed. The second is to stay put, and my esteemed friend will begin to get to know you better. You have 10 seconds to think. Time is running out, Naruto said, waiting for the bandits' reaction. They didn't have to wait long. The bandits quickly came to their senses and ran away, with Gato running behind them, shouting something at his lieutenants. The problem is solved. You can continue, the Jinchuriki said, jumping off the fox's head and back onto the bridge. Thank you for your help, Kurama, Naruto shouted to the nine-tailed fox. The fox smiled, though it wasn't really a smile, more like a bloodthirsty grin, and vanished, while Uzumaki headed towards his friends. That was something, Sasuke said, staring at the spot where the fox had just been. Sakura stared silently at Naruto. I didn't know you could summon him, Kakashi said, scratching the back of his head, and then narrowing his eyes, he looked at the blonde. So you have a meeting with Hinata tomorrow? Yeah. Wait, how do you know what's wrong with her? Naruto said, his gaze burning a hole through his sensei, making him feel uneasy. Dobe, it's not surprising. After what you did to the Hyuga, the whole village already knows, the Uchiha said with a sigh. Naruto snorted and turned his gaze back to his sensei. I managed to roughly reproduce that technique, but only partially somewhere in the first stage, Naruto said in one breath. Will you demonstrate? Kakashi asked, hardly believing he'd succeed. He was strong, but still, only a select few in that clan could use this technique. Senpo, Gasuto Senshi. Commentary on Chapter 9. Reviews Chapter 10 Senpo, Gasuto Senshi. After Naruto named the technique, a column of black chakra rose up around him like a small tornado, beginning to take the shape of ribs around Uzumaki. It was an exact replica of Susanoo in its initial stages. Naruto began to form a bone arm, but when it was halfway formed, something went wrong and the technique disappeared. Gritting his teeth, the blonde repeated it, and this time he succeeded. The bone arm fully formed, and then the second one. Naruto looked at Kakashi and at that very moment lost control of the technique and burst out laughing, although it didn't really look like laughter, more like a guffaw. And there was plenty to laugh about. The ash-haired man stood there, unable to utter a word, simply staring at Uzumaki with his eye and gasping for air like a fish. Even though the lower half of his face was covered by a mask, it was clearly visible. How were you able to use Susanoo? Hatake said, having more or less returned to his normal state. It's not Susanoo. It's a copy of it in its initial stages. Unfortunately, I couldn't get any further. I simply release Kurama's chakra and shape it into the correct form of the technique. The fox told me what the technique roughly looks like, and I tried to replicate it. Naruto was lying about that last part, of course. He knew Susanoo's appearance better than anyone. At that moment, Tazuna approached them and addressed Naruto. Naruto, that was something. Was it really the nine-tailed demon fox? The architect asked. No, I just used Hinge on my summoning because I knew it would work without fail. The blonde decided to keep the fact that the fox was no longer in the cage a secret. Yes, you're right. It worked. Thank you, Naruto. Tazuna-san, how much time will it take to complete the bridge's construction? The Jinchuriki asked. I think we'll be finished in 2 days, the bridge builder replied. After some thought, Naruto decided to speed up construction so he could be in Konoha by tomorrow evening. And if we increase the number of workers by about 100 or 200, will we be able to complete it today? Theoretically, yes, but where will we get so many people? That's no problem, Uzumaki said and formed a cloning seal. Multiple shadow cloning technique. In an instant, 200 copies of Uzumaki were already standing in front of the architect. They're completely at your disposal, Naruto said, walking along the bridge toward the architect's house. Tazuna looked at the crowd in shock, but immediately came to his senses and began giving orders to the clones. What about the bridge defense? Where are you going? Sakura asked, watching Kakashi and Sasuke walk away after the blonde. To which Uzumaki, without turning around, said, Sakura, there are 200 of my clones here, believe me. Even if someone tries, they don't have a chance, Naruto said, and the pink-haired girl, muttering something under her breath, followed them. The work was in full swing, and by evening the bridge was completely finished. It was named in honor of the blonde man, Naruto Bridge. After dinner, Naruto called Sasuke outside, under the pretext that he needed to talk to him. What did you want to talk about? He asked in his Uchiha manner, which infuriated Naruto to no end. Not here, Naruto said, heading toward a small grove near the architect's house. Sasuke reluctantly followed, sighing heavily. When they arrived, the blonde performed a couple of seals and erected a barrier. Sasuke looked at him in confusion. So that no one would overhear. So, remember when we were introducing ourselves to the teacher, you said you wanted to kill someone. I take it that was Itachi? Uzumaki said. The Uchiha's eyes flashed with unkindness, and he began to slowly approach the blonde. How do you know that? Sasuke asked, clenching his fists tightly. His Sharingan, with its 3 tomo, lit up in his eyes. Naruto looked surprised, but didn't show it. He sighed sadly and said, So you know nothing about the infamous Uchiha clan conspiracy case, the blonde said, looking into Sasuke's eyes. What kind of conspiracy is this? Sasuke shouted slightly, incomprehensibly. Sit down and calm down, the Jinchuriki said, and the other, oddly enough, listened to him. Although I'm not sure if I should tell you about this. I want to know about this. Okay, now I'll tell you a not-so-funny story about why the Uchiha clan was destroyed. Note: Senpo, Gasudo Senshi Sage Art, Phantom Warrior. Approximate rank of this technique is S. Using the Nine-Tails Chakra, Naruto creates an exact replica of the Uchiha clan Susanoo technique. By concentrating it around himself, Naruto gives it the desired form, that is, a skeletal form. He has not yet been able to develop it further. Commentary on Chapter 10. Leave your feedback. Chapter 11. Now I'll tell you a not-so-funny story about why the Uchiha clan was exterminated. About 4 years ago, the village elders received information about a military coup being planned by the Uchiha clan. The goal of the coup was to seize power in the village. To prevent a civil war, the elders decided to exterminate the Uchiha clan. A stupid move, in my opinion, but unfortunately, that can't be changed. ANBU fighter Uchiha Itachi was appointed to carry out the sentence. The mission was overseen by fighters from the ANBU Special Forces Unit, Root. However, the mission was failed due to a survivor. Naruto pointed at Sasuke. Because of this, and the death of the Root fighters, Itachi received the status of missing nin and orders to infiltrate the criminal organization Akatsuki, which is exactly what he did. The reason he didn't kill you is simple. Itachi sincerely loves his brother. He did everything he could to make you, Sasuke, hate him. Itachi wants you to kill him yourself, thus correcting his mistakes, Naruto said breathlessly, his gaze fixed on Sasuke, waiting for some kind of reaction. Gradually, the Uchiha began to recover from the shock. His eyes expressed pain and hatred, but no longer for his brother, but for the elders. So Itachi was just an executor. Who ordered his brother to destroy the clan? Sasuke jumped up and grabbed Naruto by the lapels. Sit down and calm down, the Jinchuriki said calmly, but the other wasn't even going to listen to him, insisting on his own. Who? I said, sit. Uzumaki spoke, looking into the Uchiha's eyes with his Rinnegan. Sasuke felt an incredible weight, as if he were supporting a mountain on his shoulders. His legs became weak, and he fell to his knees. At that moment, the weight disappeared as Uzumaki deactivated his Rinnegan. That's better. Yes, you're right. Itachi is just a hostage to circumstances, Naruto confirmed. The village elders, Yudetane Koharu and Mitokado Hamura, spoke out in favor of the clan's destruction. The initiator of the idea was the head of Root, Shimura Danzo. The third tried to resist, but as you can see, it didn't work out. I'll destroy you, Sasuke shouted, the three tomos spinning wildly, and soon his Sharingan had taken on the shape of a six-pointed star. Naruto smirked. He hadn't expected this outcome, that the Uchiha would awaken his Mangekyo Sharingan. He'd simply wanted to tell him the truth, that's all. But awakening it had its advantages, too. I understand everything perfectly well, especially since I also have something to take revenge on them for. I'll kill them, Sasuke said angrily. I'll destroy them, every single one of them. Don't you want to make them suffer first? Naruto chuckled. With your new Sharingan, you can do it. What are you talking about? Sasuke pulled a kunai from his pouch and looked at the reflection. Now he saw that his pupil had taken the shape of a red six-pointed star, and he looked at Naruto with some surprise. What is this? And this is my friend, the Mangekyo Sharingan, Naruto concluded. Just like your brothers. What? Mangekyo Sharingan? I've never heard of it, Sasuke asked in surprise. The Jinchuriki looked at the Uchiha in surprise and asked a question. Are you definitely from the Uchiha clan? Maybe you're the result of some experiment? Sasuke looked at Naruto with confusion. Dig around in the clan's archives or somewhere else, maybe you'll dig up something, Uzumaki said, rising from the ground. Remember that technique I showed you on the bridge? Sasuke nodded and Naruto continued. It's a Mangekyo Sharingan technique called Susanoo. How do you know about her? You're not an Uchiha, the Sharingan owner said, narrowing his eyes. Sasuke, I have a Bijuu sealed within me that's several thousand years old, and believe me, it knows a lot, Naruto said. So he and I decided to try to replicate it, but it didn't work because I don't have eyes like yours. I told Kakashi about it, but he thought I was crazy, but Kurama and I found a way out. I release his chakra and shape it, but the problem is, I don't have enough chakra control for that, and I can't maintain the technique for long, or even fully form it, no matter how hard I try. Yes, but you are not such a fool as you pretended to be at the academy. I'll take that as a compliment. And as for the elders in Danzo, don't rush things just yet, everything in its own time. Besides, we don't have any proof of their guilt yet, and no one will believe our words. We need reliable facts in writing, and for now, we're powerless. Sasuke nodded reluctantly. That's good, now let's go. We're heading to the village tomorrow morning. We need to rest, Naruto said, and they headed toward the architect's house. Commentary on Chapter 11. Reviews Chapter 12 Morning arrived, and the Konoha team was getting ready to head back. After saying goodbye to Tazuna and his family, the shinobi headed back to their home village. Sasuke spent most of the journey thinking about his conversation with Naruto the previous day. He didn't know whether the Uzumaki was lying or telling the truth, but something inside him told him the blonde wasn't lying and could be trusted. A few hours later, they reached the village. After greeting the guards, Izumo and Kotetsu, the team headed straight to the Hokage. Entering the third Hokage's office, Kakashi began writing his mission report. "Hokage-sama, mission accomplished," Hatake reported. Sarutobi looked up from his papers and glanced at the Jounin. "Were there any difficulties?" "Almost," Kakashi said, taking a scroll out of his pouch. "This scroll contains 2 missing nin, Momochi Zabuza and his assistant Haku." The third almost swallowed his pipe from what he said. "Naruto neutralized them," Kakashi continued. "I propose making him a Jonin. He may be young, but he's precocious. Show me a single Genin who can defeat 2 S-rank missing nin," Hatake said, pointing at the blonde. Naruto was quite surprised by this turn of events. "First, he needs to become a Chunin, but that's no problem. The exam is in 2 weeks, Sarutobi said, then, suddenly remembering, continued. "Oh, by the way, here are the exam forms. You'll need to fill them out if you want to participate. And yes, the team must be complete." The Genin took the forms and glanced through them. "You may go," said the Hokage, and everyone except Naruto headed for the exit. Looking at him, Sarutobi asked a question. "Did you want something, Naruto?" The third looked closely at the Jinchuriki. "I have a question for you, esteemed Hokage," Naruto said, his face darkening. "I'm really curious. Who allowed you to hide the truth about my parents from me?" Sarutobi gasped for air like a fish out of water. The Hokage was speechless, but the blonde man continued. "I know that Uzumaki Kushina was my mother, and Minato Namikaze, the 4th Hokage, was my father. He was the one who sealed the 9-tailed fox inside me, thinking I'd be considered a hero. He was mistaken, of course, but that wasn't his fault. In any case, he certainly didn't want his son to be kept from knowing who his parents were. I understand this was done at the insistence of the elders, correct?" "Yes, Naruto," the Hokage finally spoke. "According to their orders, issued after your parents' deaths, no one is allowed to tell you that you are the Jinchuriki of the 9-tailed fox. And it was also forbidden to tell you who your parents were. I guess that's why they gave me my mother's last name," Naruto said without emotion. "Yes." Sarutobi hung his head. "But how do you know about this?" "You need to guard your secrets better," Naruto chuckled. "All your secret orders are no longer a secret to me. I studied them before graduating from the academy. In search of information about my parents, I read almost all the data from your archive. It was around that time that I awakened my Rinnegan. I decided to make myself look like a fool who knows nothing and can't do anything, and even you believe me. Am I right?" Naruto fell silent, letting the third take it all in. The Jinchuriki had thought this story out in detail when planning the conversation on the way to Konoha. Everything had gone exactly as planned. And one more thing. Uzumaki began. Sarutobi was already expecting anything, but what the blonde said simply knocked him out. "I need all the information about the Uchiha clan case," Naruto said in a calm voice. "I understand that you wanted to know about your parents, and that you're a Jinchuriki. But why do you need information about the clan's destruction, and how do you know about it?" the Hokage said, confused. I already told you. I know, or rather, I assume that the elders and Danzo were involved here too, right?" Seeing something resembling a nod, the blonde continued, "Old man, they were allowed too much. First, They hid the truth from me. Then they destroyed an entire clan, although everything could have been resolved peacefully. And what will happen now? It is not the Hokage who runs the village, but these old fools. They tarnish the honor of our village with their actions. It's time for them to step down from their posts and more. Naruto finished speaking. Sarutobi lowered his head. He understood that Uzumaki was right, and that he was partly to blame for what happened. Come on, Grandpa, don't bother yourself unnecessarily. The blonde grinned. I understand everything. Okay, Naruto, I will give you all the information, but later. The Hokage said seriously? And this? About the inheritance that my parents left me. Come by tomorrow evening, I'll prepare everything. Naruto nodded in response and left the office, leaving the third in his thoughts. Having left the Uzumaki residence, he ran at full speed towards the Hyuga clan's estate. Commentary on Chapter 12. Leave your feedback. Chapter 13. Naruto reached the Hyuga estate quickly. Upon entering the courtyard, he saw Hayashi training Hanabi, Hinata's younger sister. Upon seeing the blonde, he stopped training and approached the Uzumaki. Hello, Naruto, said the head of the Hyuga clan. Hello, Hayashi-sama. The Jinchuriki greeted and asked, Is Hinata home? Yes, she'll be out soon, said Hugo, and after a couple of seconds continued, Maybe we can have a little sparring while she's gone? Wasn't it enough for you last time, Hayashi-sama? Naruto said, narrowing his eyes. You just caught me off guard. Hayashi began to justify himself. Well, yes, taken by surprise, of course, Limor. The nine-tailed one said in his subconscious. Has the rug really decided to talk? So what? Hugo asked. Naruto made a sly expression and answered. Well, let's do it quickly, the blonde said as he walked to the training grounds. Naruto decided to end the fight quickly, and he'd chosen a specific technique to help him do so. Attack, Naruto, Hayashi said, assuming the gentle fist stance. The Jinchuriki sighed publicly and began performing hand seals, the last one being Tori. Hayashi prepared Kaiten to counter Naruto's technique, but how could he have miscalculated it? Kaiten Uzumaki, Insutanto Mashi. At first, Hyuga didn't understand, but then he realized he couldn't move. At that moment, Hinata approached the training ground and sighed heavily upon seeing the scene. What did you do? Hayashi asked in surprise when the blonde canceled the technique. It's a technique of my clan, the Uzumaki clan. It instantly paralyzes the target. There's practically no chance of avoiding it. Unless you're hovering in midair, of course. Naruto replied. Your clan? Hinata asked as she approached them. Uzumaki walked up to the girl and hugged her. I'll tell you later, the Jinchuriki said in the brunette's ear, and then turned to Hayashi. Hayashi-sama, shall we go? Yes, go ahead. And Naruto, you're responsible for her, the clan leader said, smiling. Hand in hand, the couple headed out of the estate. Naruto and Hinata strolled leisurely through Konoha, just the two of them, enjoying each other's company and the literally thriving life of the village, despite it already being evening. Naruto-kun, where are we going? Hinata asked with a smile when she caught his gaze again. We're just taking a stroll. And let's not call each other kun, just Naruto. Although I do have a really nice spot in mind. Uzumaki replied warmly. Maybe we should go there? The blonde asked, looking tenderly into the girl's eyes.